Welcome to Decoded Stories with the Nordcode, where I sit down with tech professionals, creatives, and innovators to decode their stories behind their journeys. You know, like the ones you never get a chance to hear of. I am your host, Nyamiche Honor. And we are live. I was gonna say, what's up, babe?
I mean, yeah, what's up?
What's up? We gotta keep it professional. What's up, Jennifer? That feels so weird.
That's not my name.
Hey, babe.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. Let's go. All right, we're gonna get right into it. This is a fun segment. Is a this or that. All right, so give you some questions here and there, and give me the first thing that comes up from your mind. Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it. Sweet or salty snacks? You taking way too long.
Snacks. Okay. Salty.
Salty?
Yes.
Are you sure?
For snack. Yes.
You don't sound sure. Okay.
Salty.
Okay. Movie night at home or going to the theater?
At home. At home.
I'm actually shocked by that answer. I would
No,
think theater.
because like I feel like I'll be more in the comfort of my, my comfort of my home. I can get up to go pee whenever.
Go pee whenever.
I enjoy the experience outside, but nothing beats being home.
Cool. Road trip or fly straight to the destination?
It depends.
If you got kids with you?
Well, not even that. If it's like a 3-hour road trip, then let's do a road trip. But if it's like a 14-hour type distance, yeah, no, we're not driving.
Well, we drove.
Like I would not do a road trip to Texas. I would fly to Texas. I don't mind doing a road trip to West Virginia or North Carolina. No, North Carolina's like not 8, but yeah, somewhere close. Maybe Delaware. Delaware is like 3 hours. So yeah, if it's short distance, then
you're probably not even gonna be driving. I'm doing most of the driving.
Still, but I don't want to be sitting.
Fair.
Like I don't know. It's just longer.
Okay, cool. Cooking at home or ordering out takeout?
Take out, baby. Take out. Look.
I don't know why I asked this
Take
question.
out. I don't even know why you asked that. Take out any day. Like, I mean, unless it's something that I really want to make, or like I haven't had it anywhere else. It's something that I make myself and I'm craving. Then yeah. But on a regular day, take out. Just convenient.
This is so fruity. All right, cool. So next one is plan every detail or go with the flow.
Plan every detail.
Really?
Plan every detail.
Like you want to have your hands on every.
Yeah. Go with the flow. Like, no, why? What flow? Like, no.
Not what flow.
Like, I have to plan.
Okay. Dancing or karaoke? This is a good one.
I mean, both. You dance when you do karaoke, so
You gotta pick one though.
it goes hand in hand. I guess I'll say dancing.
I'll say yeah.
I'll say dancing. Yeah.
City life or country living? That's a tough one.
I mean, I thought you were gonna say like suburban, country, like
city, or like country.
Is Waco country? I feel like that.
Yeah.
I don't think Waco was that country. Like,
There's like parts in Waco that's country, but I mean
exactly. So yeah, I would say
country's like my parents' spot. That's country, but that's not even
true.
country.
Yeah,
Though, you know
there's
what I mean?
literally nothing there. For this, I feel like it's two extremes. I'll just stick with city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Two
fair.
extremes. I'll stick with city.
Okay. Ice cream in a cone or ice cream in a cup?
In a cup, there's more control. Like I have more
I thought you said
control.
cone. When we go to Jenny's, don't you do?
Because it's waffle cone, and sometimes it's
yes.
even too salty.
That is true.
And really also just for aesthetics. For the picture, it's a waffle cone. But yeah, I feel like in a cup you have more control as to like, what you're eating. Also like if it's melting, it's not melting all over your fingers and whatnot. So
Okay. Cool.
cup, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's go to the next segment. Tell the people about you. I know all about you, but tell them who you are. Give them like a little 1 minute spiel as to who my honey is. Who are you?
All right. So I'm his wife, Jennifer, and so I'm a self-taught UX designer. I started my journey back in 2021 really just wanted to have a career and wanted to do something that I love. And so design was it. Stumbled upon UX design, pursued it. And yeah, I landed my first job at IBM, and that journey was just, up from there. Yeah, that's pretty much about me. I am a mom. I'm his wife. We have 3 kids together.
I'm
So
so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. So talk to the people. So you said your first job was IBM, right? How did you get or let's do a background. Like, what's your background? Like, are you tech savvy? Did you always want to go like be in a tech field? Did you go to school to do tech? Like, give me like a background before IBM.
So, my background really is, so in college I majored in biochemistry. So chemistry with a concentration.
You smart.
Of chemistry with a concentration of biochemistry, and the goal there was to obviously go to pharmacy school. You know all about this. Which I ended up working in the pharmacy for a little bit, which I loved. It was pretty fun. But I think after a while, I honestly kind of didn't like school anymore. You remember? It
Of
just
course I
kept
remember.
getting tougher and tougher. I was like, bruh, this is not the freshman and sophomore year that it was. I was just like failing classes, repeating, and I don't know. I would study all night and still just keep failing. It was
Wait, you were not
terrible.
studying.
I was.
You were not studying.
But I
You kept on telling me
was.
that you would you thought you knew it all, so you didn't have to study.
No. Even like the ones that I would like literally study for, I still didn't. I didn't do well. So, but yeah, school was really terrible. Like towards like my my junior, senior year. So in sophomore year in college, I've always been creative. I've always loved like handcrafting, DIY, and whatnot. So that's where like my love for through that is what I found my love for digital creation, because I thought, my creativity was really just hands-on stuff. But, in having a handmade business and, wanting to make a website on my own, that's where I kind of like stumbled upon that passion of like design, transcending just doing things with my hand, but also like all forms of design. So yeah, initially I wanted to become a pharmacist, decided not to pursue it anymore after the last couple years of college was pretty tough. We were also like in a journey of becoming debt free, so already I had loans from undergrad, and then going to pharmacy school will incur like
Yeah.
thousands of thousands. Then it's like, yeah, and I lost my passion for school too, so
It's actually beautiful. Like, besides the camera stuff, it's actually cool. It's pretty cool. I lost my train of thought. I feel like when you're talking, I was like, "This is so beautiful."
Bruh, you need to focus.
I don't feel like.
Focus.
Is this going on the podcast? I'm so sorry. It's kind of I feel like it's easy to interview her, which makes it hard. You know what I mean? It's like,
because you like already know.
'cause I know you,
Yeah.
and I'm also like, wow, this is actually beautiful. Like you're beautiful, and like this is beautiful. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right, so I think I'm gonna just stick in my notes because I'm gonna go off track if not. Okay. So do you remember the day? Well, first of all, what is UX? Like, what does that stand for? Like, what is UX design?
UX stands for user experience. So UX design is user experience design.
Okay.
And in a nutshell, so usually when you ask a UX designer what job they do, it's kind of hard to explain because it's like, it's not something that people are used to. They were like, oh, so you're a web designer? No, it's not the same thing. So user experience designer, typically our end goal is to make sure that apps and websites are user friendly, that
Okay.
if a user comes to your website or they're using your app, they would have like a good time using it or an easy time using it, finding where things are, have an enjoyable experience. So there's
Yeah.
a lot that goes into it, and then ultimately that includes like the design and the aesthetics of it all too. So
I feel like most people don't know. People know what a doctor is, right?
right.
Most people don't know what a UX designer is. So how did you stumble? Like, how did you find the title UX design? And do you remember the exact day that was?
So yeah, it all stemmed from, I think it was like post COVID. The whole world was in a turmoil. A lot of people were still trying to figure out certain things, and I think I was definitely one of those people because my business had kind of like stopped doing well, and so I was kind of in a place where I wanted to find a career. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I didn't like the last couple years of college because I was doing something that I wasn't like innately passionate about. So I was like, okay, well, now I've, come to really believe and know that my passion is design. So perhaps maybe if I go back to school doing something that I'm passionate about, I'll probably love school,
Yeah.
And the only thing that came to mind at that time was graphic design, because I know that there is like, bachelor degree or for, graphic design. So I decided to do my research on how to become a graphic designer. Do I want to go back to school? Like, the whole process, and, just a little bit of the things that I have even like learned from like watching movies and whatnot. Like, I know that you have to get accepted into programs or whatever. I was a little intimidated, but I was like, you know what? No, I'm still going to look it up and do it. Mind you, I'm not a great graphic designer. I'm a great designer, but when it comes to graphic design, I feel like that's a little bit different. So I looked up on YouTube how to become a graphic designer, and the first video that I watched, it was November 15th, 2021.
Yep.
I watched the video, and then the girl in the video talked about how if you become a graphic designer, you can also branch into UX design.
Okay.
And so that caught my attention because I was like, oh, UX design, I've seen it before, because there were times where I started to learn how to code Python and whatnot.
I think I try to get you to become like a programmer.
You've always wanted me to be in tech, and I was like, you know what, let me try it. So a while back, I started like trying to learn Python, but it didn't go anywhere.
It took like 2 days. She's like, nah, I'm done. I'm done.
But I remember that I had seen that like title somewhere, like UX design, had seen it in like, job searches before, but then I always assumed it had to do with like coding, like hardcore coding. So I never really paid attention to it. So when I watched that video and the girl said, hey, you could branch into UX design, I actually took the time to, like, okay, let me look up what this UX design thing is. Like, I've seen it, I've assumed I knew what it was. So I finally did like my research and looked up what a UX designer was.
Bing.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, where has this been all my life? So I really like enjoyed, I loved what I saw, and I knew that that's somewhere I'll thrive, because I loved, designing interfaces. I loved all that comes with it. So yeah, that's how I stumbled on UX design in a nutshell.
So you said you taught yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you teach yourself? Did you do like a Udemy course? Like, how can people teach themselves UX design? Like, how does that work?
So for me, it's I'm the type of person I pick up a lot of things that most people wouldn't, or like I pay attention to certain details that most people wouldn't. And initially I didn't start off wanting to teach myself. You already know this. The reason why I taught myself was because you were in boot camp. Because you were in boot camp and we both couldn't be in boot camp. So, and of course, you being into tech and taking that journey, you would always be on these like Twitter spaces, Twitter, now known as X. You'll be on those spaces listening to other techies, how people got in. And so I feel like secondhand, I learned a lot from that. And so I heard so many stories of people saying, they taught themselves how to code in 3 months and they got a job. And so I was like, you know what? Hey,
let's go for it.
Yeah, like that's real life stories of people who've done it, and also UX design. So if they've done it, why can't I do it? And so that only made sense. And I decided to learn on my own. I started off with a YouTube course, which was really great. A great intro course. I think it did a great job of like covering everything, but like in a high level overview. So I started with a YouTube course, and then I branched off into like different articles, different courses. Eventually I learned how to code on Udemy. So
you know how to code, like actually code?
I mean, HTML, CSS, yes.
Okay.
And I do code now, but
we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Okay. So do you think that it's possible to self-teach yourself UX design now? Is this still possible?
I think so. Anything is possible. I think, granted, having certain accolades and like certain certifications and whatnot look great on your resume. Why are you laughing?
This is so cool.
Smiling?
I feel like you've taken me out of my element. Yeah, I'm just here like,
okay, that's what 10 years of marriage does.
I'm just here like, yo, this is crazy. All right, go ahead. Answer the question. Go ahead.
You're so sweet. Now I don't know what I was saying. No, yeah, but like, of course anybody can teach themselves UX design, but I feel like the only thing lies in the fact that the market is a little bit different now. And so, there's a lot of competition out there. So whatever you have on your resume is going to speak volumes.
Yeah.
So granted, you can still teach yourself. I would say once you have that knowledge, if you want to like either go through a certification course just so you can have that certification on your resume, or if you find a job that will be able to pay for you, still like don't sit on it that even if you get a job, oh, that's it. Like still find ways to have some type of accolade to put on your resume, because even though it's not like end all be all at this point, the competition is fierce and you want to be able to stand a chance.
So I feel like one thing I'm so proud of you, like you're able to get yourself in rooms where I'm like, how did this girl do this? Like, how did you, like, you know what I mean? How long did it take you to like self-teach?
So my journey to UX design it depends on how you look at it. It could be very short, but then also very long, right? So in terms of when I decided to pursue a career in UX design, it took me, so from the time that I started studying and then from the time that I got my first job offer, it took me 3 months, right? It took me 3 months to self-teach and then get my first job offer. However, the reason why I feel like it took me such a short time is because I already had like those design skills, so I didn't spend a lot of time on the user interface. And I think that's where it gets a lot of people, especially those that are not like design savvy or like have an eye for design. They have to spend a little bit more time on like the user interface, knowing what colors look good together, what colors are accessible, where these icons are supposed to go and stuff like that, but I already kind of had that experience having like built my own website in the past and having like built websites for friends, as a hobby or whatever. I feel like I had that advantage. So when I self-taught, when I did self-teach, I didn't have to spend a lot of time there. So it was more so like the principles and the foundations and the, the design process. Those are the things that I focused on. And then once I was ready to build my portfolio, I think the design part was kind of easy.
So you already had the eye for design, so that was easy peasy. But then what you need, I guess, to brush on and learn was the design process.
Like a lot of the theories and the foundational knowledge, especially when it comes to like the research, the analysis of everything that goes into like, especially when you're starting a project from scratch, like like the user interviews, the basic principles of UX.
So talk a bit about that, because I feel like there might be somebody who's like, okay, I'm really good in design, right? I can maybe put clothes together, or I can like decorate a room. So checkbox, right? But then what is that, like, talk a bit more about the extra stuff that you had to learn, that design process. Like, give me a bit more detail as to like what that entails. What's that about?
Yeah. So designing, that's why it's a little bit different from even like, and the titles can get kind of murky, because like web designer, if you hear the term web designer, you would assume just web designer. You just design the website, but that's more so like deals with development as well. So like when someone is just simply designing a website just based off of aesthetics, how it's supposed to look, that's just that. But with UX, there's a lot more that goes into it. So for example, let's take Instagram, the app Instagram, for example, right? Before it became what we see now, it went through a whole lot of a whole lot of things before it became the app that we see now, right? For example, it went through research. Are people going to care about this app? Why should people care? Why should they use it? What are they using it for? Is there something else on the market that is comparable? Why should they stop using that one to come and use Instagram? So like that, all that research goes on behind the scenes. So then we get to a point where we actually take it before the intended users. Okay, how do you find this app? This is meant to share pictures with your friends. Would you use this app to share pictures with your friends? Like why not? If you have a like button instead of a favorite button, would that, be something that you'd prefer over, so stuff like that, making sure that when this product finally launches, it's going to have impact, or people are going to care and people are going to have a good time using it, so a lot of that goes on behind. And then even when it comes to the design itself, you don't just like throw things on there, like every color with every color. Like you have to know color theory. You have to know what color goes with which color. You have to know accessibility, what colors don't pair well because people are not going to be able to see. So a lot of that background stuff.
Hence is why it's called user experience. 'cause
Exactly.
You're fishing or testing for the user experience. right?
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. So talking about like portfolio, right? Because obviously you need to showcase your work through a portfolio, right? How did your portfolio look like? Blah, 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 blah. How did your portfolio look like? Like what kind of projects did you have on? Like talk to me a bit more about the project you had on there.
So if you're watching this and you want to become a UX designer, just know that your portfolio is a monster process. Okay, it's a monstrosity, but
Not a monstrosity. Wow.
I can tell you how I almost okay, no, I know I didn't die, but
Now you
no, it almost took me out. I got so sick during that Thanksgiving period. Like I did not go to sleep. I wanted to finish my portfolio. I did not go to sleep, and y'all, I got sick for like 14 days. But yeah, like just like any design role, like so even graphic designers, in order to apply for jobs, you do need a portfolio, because how will we know if you know how to do your job?
How would they know?
If we don't
they
have
know?
any proof, like you've not designed anything before, like we need to see something to know that okay, you're good at what you do, your process, all that stuff. So a portfolio it's critical, it's essential to getting a job. And for me, how I got the projects on my portfolio was kind of cool actually. So I had mentioned earlier that I created a few websites for some friends and families, just as a hobby, something fun that I did. And so now that I became a UX designer and then knew all this that I knew now, instead of just like putting some design on the website, I went back to some of those projects and, gutted them, took them through the whole UX process, and then, redesigned it and reproduced that. So I talked about all that process and I put that on my resume, my portfolio. And then also the course that I took when I was learning, he did give like a case study. So that's what I worked on. And that was like my second project on there. And then my third project that I had 3 projects when I was done with my initial portfolio. Both the first 2 were websites, and typically it's good to have like a variety of things. So I just really needed an app on there, and this is where it gets so cool, because like God is so cool in the way he does things. So when I was doing my handcrafting business, I would sew a lot and do like a lot of patterns, and I remember thinking to myself like, man, like I need to write down all these measurements. I just, writing them down in my notebook. Sometimes I wouldn't find the notebook. Even if I found the notebooks, I'm like confused by my own things that I wrote down, because I was probably in a hurry. I was like, man, like I wish there was an app that could help me track all these measurements and everything, right? And this was like way back before I even knew what UX design was. So when I decided to finally like have an app on my portfolio, ding, it came into my head, like, why don't you just bring that idea to life? And so I did. I, went on a journey, took it through the whole process, brought that idea to life, and I put it in my portfolio, and it was genius.
Yeah.
It was.
I remember that when you told me about it, I was like, yo, this is genius. Yeah. So you did all that, you did your portfolio, your resume, and everything. Then you started applying for jobs, right? Your first job was IBM. How does that happen? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because you technically learned for 3 months, but you've had like a design background like since forever, and then IBM.
So I always say this: while it took me 3 months to transition into UX design, it really took me my whole life to be the designer that I am, right? Because there was so many things that, looking back over my life, like so many things that I did and so many talents that I've had throughout the years that all combined to when I finally made that decision to become a UX designer. Yeah. It's like it all came in like woof, like all together, like to make me the designer that I am, right? Which I'm so grateful for and so thankful for. But granted, I did not know, like I didn't think to myself that, oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if like becoming a UX designer doesn't work out? Like I don't think I had enough time to even doubt myself, because I had given myself such a strict timeline. And I didn't have time to like doubt myself. But I didn't also think, my first job is going to be at Facebook. Granted, I also did not count it out, because I did apply to Facebook, I did apply to I think Google, I did apply to a lot of the FANG companies
Yeah.
or whatever. But with IBM, I don't know how. I think I saw the posting on Indeed. And so, one of the things that you learn when you're going through, the transition process is that you have to apply to the job on the actual job website. It's advisable to do that if it does have one. So I saw the posting on Indeed, but then I went to IBM's actual website to look for that exact role. And then I applied for it. I mean, no, not thinking much of it, which is crazy because, like, I was still in my rejection phase. Right. And what I mean by that is, like, typically you would apply to like hundreds of jobs before you would like get like a hit or whatever. I don't think I had even applied to like 10 yet at that point. So I was still like, let me add it to my number count, like my application count. Right. It was just like, I'm just applying to just once I get to like maybe like 80, then I'm going to take things seriously. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is wild to say. But, it's like one of those mindsets. So I applied. I didn't think anything of it. And I think like either the next day or 2 days later, I got an email from the recruiter wanting to schedule like a phone call, like a screening. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it's just a screening. It's okay.
How did you feel? Like, did you feel like, it could be like a reality?
At that point, I didn't think that, but it was just kind of nice. And again, in my past experiences when it comes to applying for jobs, I've always had great experiences, so I don't think it was one of those things where it's like, I'm going to get a rejection. Granted, at that point, I had still gotten like a few like those automated rejection emails, but
the worst.
I don't think it hit me like it hit a lot of people in the tech world, or it would hit different, of course, now that I'm in a tech world, because back then I was like, oh, okay, whatever, But then I didn't think much of it when the email came. I was like, it's just a screening, like it's normal process, right? So then I went through the screening and did all that. Again, still didn't think anything of it. And then she decided to move me to the next phase, which my first interview. So at that point I was like, okay, I guess this is getting serious. Like, this is pretty serious. And I remember for my first interview, y'all, we had lived in that home for like 2 years at that point. Never had our internet gone out. Never had our internet gone out. That day, literally an hour till my interview, internet just, I don't know, some cable apparently just gets cut somewhere.
Oh, that is, I think they were just like construction.
Who knows?
And the construction worker cut the cable.
Like whatever they did. I'm like, of all days.
Yeah, of all days.
And I remember calling, like, being on the phone with the technician. The technician, like, was so nonchalant. I was like, yo, like, you don't care.
Like, I got an interview with IBM coming up, yo. Like, let's go.
I was so upset.
Wait, why would he even care?
No, but it's just like the way he was like, oh, well, it looks like it might come on next week or tomorrow. I'm like, what? I need it now.
Hey, I'm crying.
But thank God, one of our friends lived close, so we had to drive.
Shout out my boy Chris.
We had to drive over to that friend's house. The interview went really well. It went great. So, I mean, I got my next round interview. I was like, oh shoot, like this is actually
like
going
on
through.
The spot.
I mean, not on the spot, but I think a few days later, they emailed to like move me to the next round, and I was like, oh, this is actually happening. Like, this is real. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had my my last round of interviews. I think I did pretty well. That went well. But I think it took a while for me to hear back from them. And at that point I had received an offer for my first my first job offer with that company, but it was a contingent offer because they had to win an award. Yeah. So even though I had that offer and I had signed it, it was still contingent upon them winning the contract. So I was a little discouraged back then because I was still waiting for IBM to come through, and they were not like reaching out. I remember that day, I think you were not home when I got the email that they had they want to give me an offer. IBM? Yeah,
I think
you weren't home. I called you.
Okay.
I called you, and I was actually sad. Like a few minutes before they called me, I was just sitting there watching TV, just kind of in my feelings. I was like, dang, like they're not gonna call me back.
I think I remember that. What was I doing? I can't remember.
I don't know. I think you're out there probably driving DoorDash or something.
I was doing DoorDash?
Grubhub or something.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yo, when I got the call, I was so excited. I was just jumping up and down.
That's wild.
That was exciting.
Um, that's crazy. I'm like reliving like memory lane. That's wild. So what is one like what is like the biggest misconception about your job, or like what is one thing that you would like for people to know about UX design? Because I feel like it's not like a popular career. Most people don't know about it, right? So what is one thing that you wish that people like knew?
Right. So popular as in most people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right. I think what I would, and then this is also very recent, even in me thinking this, but I think I want people to realize how like impactful it can be, you know.
Very.
And I don't know if you guys have watched the documentary on Netflix, I think it's By Now. And one of the first people that was interviewed was a UX designer for Amazon. She was like there for 15 years. And what the impact of what she, you know, her role and her job and UX design really had on or has on this, you know, consumerism market. It just really opened up, even those of us who are in the space, it really opened up our minds to like, oh my gosh, like, we can really make some pretty big damage if we don't use our, you know, our jobs well, or like if we don't do our jobs right, in terms of like, you know, focusing so much on getting the users to do what you want them to do, which can inherently like, you know, be detrimental to them. So in this case, when it comes to Amazon, like, you know, UX designers are essentially behind making sure that you get certain cues that will make you buy, you know? And so I think that's one thing that people don't realize, that, you know, it can be very impactful whether you use it for good or for bad. So yeah.
So like being a UX designer, obviously you work hand in hand with developers, right? How is that like? Because as a developer, I obviously work with a lot of UX designers, right? And sometimes they get some designs that I'm like, yo, this is not possible, right? And it's like a love-hate, because I obviously appreciate them because I can't do what they do, right? And how has your experience been working with different developers? Do you feel that love-hate relationship? Do you know how's that like?
I think it depends, really. If you find a team that works well together, I think that's really it. Because my current team, look, we're locked in. We're like this.
Yeah.
And plus, I also code now, so it's a little bit easier for me. First of all, I don't think I've ever given anybody designs that are impossible, so that's not a thing that I struggle with or any developer has struggled with. What I have struggled with in the past is very simple things like, okay, I know you see this is blue. This is like a sky blue. I don't know why we have midnight blue on here. Those simple things. So this isn't even about, oh, this is a complicated design. No, like, use the right font. I literally gave you the right font. Like, why are you using something else, you know?
I feel like sometimes as a developer, I will speak for developers because I feel like, you know, I can. I feel like for the most part, sometimes we're lazy.
No, really, that's
I
it.
feel like sometimes because for me, I can see something that I'm like, okay, like you're not gonna notice. If the design says it's 5 pixels, right? I might make it 4.5 or 5. You know what? Like as close as I can, right? But I feel like some PMs, and you know, you're the one who made the design, y'all will like pick it apart. Like, no, this is like 1% off.
That's actually crazy. Like my boss, literally, if something is 1 pixel off, he will look at it and know it's 1 pixel off. That's wild. I can't do that. For me, I'm like, oh yeah, it looks fine.
Does it matter if it's one?
I mean,
does it make a difference?
That one, no. But I'm just saying there are, you know, and I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I actually think it's kind of cool. But like,
no, I'm saying like when you're working on a project, like let's say you give me a design and you know whatever, I'm a tiny bit off, right? Does that actually matter?
No, it depends. Like sometimes it's really not that serious because also like you have to take into account like you know, when you're coding, sometimes even the breakpoints and the dimensions could be different. So if for a certain breakpoint the dimensions have to be smaller than what I had it on the design, that's fine. But like when we're talking about certain serious things, like okay, like the button, you know, the button is supposed to, you know, I don't know, like change color on hover, but then you just make it underline on hover or something like that. Like it's like, no, there's a reason why we made it do that and not what you made it do. So like those like 2 pixels off or whatever, that's not, I mean, of course not the fonts, but like the shapes and other things, no.
So what is one thing as a UX designer that you actually love, that you look forward to? Like you actually love doing this as a UX designer, right? And on the flip side, what is one thing that you're like, I just have to go through with the flow, like you know?
I definitely love the design, especially when you have a very rough concept. Like let's say the customer has like a very rough concept, and you are able to bring it to life and put it into like a beautiful design, and then also like thinking through like, you know, the user friendliness of it.
Yeah.
I think it's just amazing. It's just an amazing feeling, right? So for example, if they have just the content on a PDF or like a, I don't know, Word document, and then taking that and translating that into design, like a beautiful website with all the parts, and like I just think that's so beautiful. And on the flip side, projects that don't have any clear direction, but then are like, just go, like just design. It's a little frustrating, right? And especially when we don't have any direction, or like, you know, what exactly we're supposed to be doing, or like so many hands are in it, and it's like this person is saying this. It's just kind of hard to work. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm your husband. We both work in tech, right? How is it like being married to a developer? Are we just home, just geeked out talking about tech? Like how is that? Because a lot of people are like, wow, y'all are both in tech. Y'all both must be smart, or y'all both must be geeks. Like, how is the dynamic at home?
I feel like I don't even see any difference in us being in tech, and I just feel like, oh, we both work from home. Like we're still like husband and wife at home. We're not like developer and UX designer. So I don't think that even overlaps. Like granted, yeah, when I'm working on certain things, and if I'm like coding, you would like walk over and like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool, like stuff like that. And then vice versa. But I don't think we're deep in like, oh, you're a developer and I'm a, you know, we're just husband and wife, really.
I think that it is cool to like know what you do and vice versa. So we can talk about, it's not like you're, I don't know, doing some kind of career that I have no idea about. True. When you're talking about your wins, your frustrations, whatever that comes with just work, I'm able to like identify and like I feel you, you know, and I can give advice and vice versa. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And I think it's a flex too. Like it's like, well, is the answer prayer one for me?
True.
So I've been praying for you to get in tech since forever, and it's a flex. Like wow, like. My girl's in tech. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
So I do want to ask this question because I know that there's a lot of people that have a heavy load, like in regards to like their life. They might be a single mom or a single father, or they work a lot and they have kids, whatnot. How do you balance work with being a mom and being a husband? Not a husband.
You mean a wife?
And being a wife. Like, how do you balance that, you know? I know you mentioned being remote, so I'm guessing, does that help at all? Like, how do you balance?
Honestly, it hasn't been easy, if I'm being honest. Like, there are moments where it's tough to balance it out. Sometimes, you know, your job would have to suffer a little bit to balance it out, and then vice versa. Sometimes your family will have to suffer a little bit to balance it out, but I think it takes time to figure out that balance, and then once you do, I think it's pretty great. For me, it's just really writing out my day and like having a schedule and then really sticking to it as much as possible. Like for example, working out, I do that in the mornings, make sure I come back by a certain time, give, you know, the girls breakfast, get myself ready and all that stuff, and then, you know, be ready to work. And then like balancing out like, okay, lunchtime, you know, what time, you know, picking up the girls when they come from the bus stop. I think it's really just like having your day planned out and then following it as much as possible. Yeah. And then obviously also like working from home makes things a little bit easier because, you know, I'm home. But I also like, there's been seasons where we've been, you know, we would have to do all that and then also be cooking and then doing all the house chores and whatnot, which is kind of hard. But then, you know, there are seasons where we're like, okay, well, let's look into these meal plans to help so we can cut out like the cooking and have time to rest and do other things that are also like priority. So I think it really would shift depending on, the season that you're in. Sometimes what was working for you 3 months ago will not be working for you the next 3 months. So knowing that and adapting to it when it happens, and not being so like frustrated, oh my gosh, like my schedule has changed. Like, okay, it has changed. Find a way to make it work, adapt to it, and change things around or turn things around so it can work out for you. Yeah.
What is one thing you would, one like advice that you would give to somebody who is thinking about becoming a UX designer?
So I know that there's a lot of chatter around like, the market being saturated and whatnot. And, that's one thing that I feel like we say for everything. Everybody says that for everything. There's, the market for content creation is saturated. The market for everything is saturated. Meanwhile, you go to the grocery store and you see like 50 million cans of Coca-Colas or
That's a good
50
one,
million brands of soda.
Yeah.
They're still there. They've been there for years. They're still winning. They're still successful. That's why they're still in the stores. All different kinds of tortilla chips and corn chips, like they're all there. The market, if they said the market was saturated, they would not be on the shelf, So I think if that's what you want to do and you think you'll be good at it, go for it.
Yeah.
You have no idea what company is waiting for you. I had no idea IBM was waiting for me. Like you have no
That's
idea. No, like nobody has your future in their hands except you. Well, and God, if you are a Christian. So yeah, don't let anything stop you from if that's what you want to do.
With you being a designer, I'm guessing that you have to be detail oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between you and I, who's more detail oriented?
Why would you even ask me that? You don't put yourself in this question because like you are not even detail oriented. What are you talking about?
That's terrible.
I am so detailed. Like, what do you? First of all, that's the most number one reason why my current boss hired me.
Wow.
My attention to
I
detail.
thought you were gonna give me some kind of like.
Sir, no.
Oop.
No.
Let's scratch that question off.
But you're doing good. You're doing good. It's the 10 years of marriage. I'm rubbing off on him, so he's doing good.
Do you do a lot of late night work? I know you're remote. I know that a lot of remote workers, they tend to work late nights a lot.
For me, no. Work-life balance is something that I take very seriously. There was a short period of time where I worked 3 nights or 4 nights in a row. That was like last year Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas, because we were in a crunch time for this project. But outside of that, I don't really do work at night. If I do, then it's like my own personal study time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm trying to learn be better with coding or something else. But typically, no, I don't. After I'm done at 5, I'm done at 5.
This is the last question, and I'm gonna let you go. So you mentioned coding. I feel like whenever people hear coding, they hear, "Ooh, so scary," right? As a UX designer, how much do you code? And for somebody who's trying to get into design, like I said, they might like fashion or they might like colors. Do they have to code, or can they just do UX?
So you don't have to know how to code to be a UX designer. But if you want to be competitive in this market, then it's highly recommended, right? Because if I have a UX designer who's, just does UX, all that stuff, but then I have one who also codes and understands the basic principles of it, chances are they're going to hire the one who has knowledge, because again, it's helpful. And also if you could kind of chip in or step in a little bit to help out, great. So it's not mandatory, but it is highly recommended to know how to code.
Yeah, I think that I'll give my little 2 cents in here. I feel like in everything that you do, you have to put yourself in a position where you're not replaceable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if yes, you can just do UX, that's your job, cool, right? But how can I take it a step higher?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like what other kind of knowledge can I gain to make myself more valuable? And I feel like if you do that, you're always gonna be in high demand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like this question can be kind of controversial for some people because there's a lot of talk around, oh, if you're getting paid for one thing, don't do someone else's job or don't do another job, then they should need to pay you double salary.
Yeah.
This is not
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
like
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
there's that balance between like, okay, I'm not gonna do my job and then do a developer's
Of course,
job
of course.
full time. Like, no. What we're saying is just like basically upskilling, right?
Just make yourself marketable.
Yeah, just make yourself more marketable. Just upskilling. If you can be helpful in some way, or like what is it, bring value in more ways than one, then that's great.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I think those are the questions I have for you, babe. I don't think I have any more. How can people connect with you? How can people find you, your brand, all that? And she's married too, so don't be sliding them DMs.
I was gonna say I do not want to be found, but I'm just kidding.
What?
I'm just kidding. You can find me on social
Who
media.
you hiding from? Babe, who you hiding from? What's
No,
going on here?
I'm hiding from the internet. You can find me on all social media platforms at genbydesign.ux. Yeah.
This has been a good interview. I feel like the whole time I'm just like in awe. You know what I mean? Like legit. Like I'm just like, wow, this is my wife. I'm talking to my wife. It's pretty cool. Thank you for being on the podcast. I appreciate you. We live in the same house, so I guess we're gonna pack up together and
See you in the kitchen.
yeah, do whatever. All right, y'all.
Peace.